That's me. Nightwatch N8. Yeah, I was just gonna take it easy and chill out a bit. It's like beautiful. I look pale. Can you tell I've been cooped up all winter? I think it's the sun, but yeah. It's a beautiful, like, I think at last I checked on the way up here anyway, it was 66 degrees. I am loving it. More than McDonald's even. More than McDonald's. I don't eat McDonald's. But yeah, you can see some of these charred trees. Yeah. But the good news is some of them still have some life. I mean, yeah, definitely set them back a bit, but it's good getting outside, just soaking up the nice weather. Fresh air is like, there's no more fresh air than when you're up here in the Rockies, I tell you. Anyway, I'll be right back. You can see some of the burn scars up there. Relocate where I put all my stuff. I didn't have too much on my mind today. I had a conversation just over YouTube with several people today about actually watching, I think it was wasn't really watching it because I had so much to say. So there was a church who I've tuned into before just for their service, you know, live stream. And so they had about 700 other people watching the show. And so they started out the service with, and they have some like missionary work, part of the church in Ukraine, right? So they had the, I don't know, they had some spokesperson up there for Ukraine, and then they had I don't know, it's the national spiritual anthem of Ukraine or something like that they sung prior to the church service, and my whole thing, what kind of irked me a little bit, and this is the only time that I've, you know, heard something that I disagreed with from this particular, I won't mention, church, and pretty good sized church though. You know, as for, I'm not much into mega churches, but this is a pretty well, I don't know, respected church on the West Coast within this particular denomination. Anyway, so they had like this big, you know, they had like a personal story from this guy and his wife, and, you know, all the hardship that they've been through, and they were asking for donations, you know, to this church-affiliated group for all the hardship that the Ukrainians were going through. And my whole spiel was like, and this is what, you know, sparked off all the conversation in the message comment section. Well, isn't that real similar to like endorsing a political candidate from the pulpit, right? We don't take sides on a conflict of other nations, you know, especially when both nations are corrupt, right? As we know, both Ukraine and Russia are not angels, right? Like and I'm not talking about the people. And that was my, you know, you got to clarify. You know, I don't have anything against the Ukrainian people, and I think it's sad and it's really messed up. And war is always evil, but to choose a side, right? Like to say, like as many churches do, falsely, and they twist scripture to justify it, that the nation of Israel is appointed by God, basically, and we need to defend her at all costs because it's prophesied. Well, there's no prophecy about the future nation of Israel. I'm sorry to break it to you, but and so yeah, it justifies all of our foreign policy meddling, this belief system tied around this, you know, say the nation of Israel, for instance, and now it's with the propaganda machine going, you know, full time it's all about Ukraine. Well, my question is, what about the Russian people? Do we ever hear anything about the Russian people? Like, what about the sanctions that they're being put through because of their, corrupt leadership? And how is it that Putin and Zelensky both have these connections to the World Economic Forum? Not to mention that, how many times that Putin met with the previous popes, more than most any other world leader. But don't look at all that, right? Because, of course, Francis is the man of peace, 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 as a prophecy in the scriptures predicted he would be. But yeah, we don't choose sides, right? In conflicts, especially from the pulpit. I mean, if that doesn't just smack of church and state, something that's protected within our First Amendment, I don't know what does. So, and they always make these topics that you can't question, right? They always make them these little hot button issues, right? Like, of course, there's innocent people being harmed right now, right? But what is the overall broad agenda, right? The country that's trying to become part of NATO, Ukraine, and their little hand-picked puppet used to be a reality TV star president, Zelensky. What real broader agenda is this conflict ultimately going to serve? And so yeah, it's like this particular church also believes in the coming beast system and the mark and all that. And my whole question is, well, then do we support the beast system? If Ukraine is being used as a pawn in this push for this one world order, why would you want to support them, right? And that's the thing, you got to separate the people from their governments, and all of our governments are corrupt, right? I don't support our government. The governments, the official federal ruling body that is in control right now over our country. Anyway, these people are heading off, I think. So I better catch up with them. Yeah, Jesus never waved a flag, right? Jesus never had a nation, never had a political party. His kingdom was above, right? His kingdom was heavenly. And as Christians, in particular, I think it's just important that we just be extra careful what we get caught up in, right? Instead of this just blind following blindly the narrative that we're being spoon-fed from the corrupt corporate media. Like I also brought up, like, why isn't there bigger deal being made about the human rights violations of China on its own people right now in the name of fighting COVID, right? With all the lockdowns and the reports of people starving because they've been locked in their apartments for so long, weeks upon weeks, and being forcefully quarantined, and in some cases, kids being separated from their parents, and kids being treated like prisoners, quarantined, and who knows what is actually going on in that country. You know how controlled their internet is, right? Who knows what kind of insane, evil things. I just think it's a little too coincidental that right before the Cove kicked off, the Chinese people were actually rising up in pretty good numbers and protesting their own corrupt communist government. And isn't that just a little too convenient that they have this excuse to crack down on all these dissenters because they're so concerned with their health, right? And I just wonder, speculating again off the top of my head, how many of those people who were marked or that the government knew that they were partaking in these anti-government activities, like the protests, and on their social media, there's videos out there about officials visiting people for their social media comments on the lockdowns going on over there and everything. So yeah, just imagine all the people that were taking part of these pro-democracy, whatever, protests that were going on. I just wonder how many of those might have just disappeared for good, right? all in the name of fighting the COVID. It's really sad and scary. I mean, if you want to live under a regime like that, you know, there's one way to do it, and you just keep complying. Just keep complying. That's what those people have been doing for generations now, because they don't have any other option, right? They don't have a Protestant principled, Protestant inspired constitution. They don't have civil liberties enshrined with the, I just wanted to show you these tracks. Right, pretty cool. I think they're big elk tracks, although they do get some, occasionally they do get a little moose visitor up here. But just to finish my train of thought, the Chinese people, they don't have this Protestant-led, this Protestant-inspired constitutional system that respects the right of the individual given by God. They don't have that, and that's really sad. My heart goes out to those people that have this thirst, right? There's a video of a drone flying over in the middle of the night, and it's saying, you know, what is it saying? Basically, just don't go anywhere, and suppress that hunger or that thirst for freedom. I thought that was pretty ironic. This was the message, according to this video on Twitter, that this little drone was barking at the people who were all on lockdown for God knows how many weeks, with by all looks government engineered food crisis is going on there. They have their own trucker blockades, right? And it's from their own government. You have to ask, right? As big on depopulation and population control as China is, and how much of this just fits right into that agenda, right? There's video after video that I still scarred in my mind, I guess, of people jumping off buildings, jumping down into sewage, holes in the ground, bodies laying in the street. I mean, these people are desperate, you know. It's me, as somebody who values freedom, what freedoms we do have, and the principles of freedom that this nation was founded on. I can think of no greater nightmare than to live under an oppressive system like that, where you can't do anything. You can have a job, you can't travel, you can't go anywhere without your little verified green status on your Vax Pass. That's insanity. You know what? Screw that world, right? Screw that version. I don't need a QR code to give me my freedoms, right? God did not create us with a QR code branded on the back of our heads, all right? Or in our right hands, for that matter. So yeah, we need to stand up for these principles, these values more than ever before, because things are moving fast. And the global elite, part of these different front groups like the World Economic Forum, you know, they just recently, I was going to do a video on the World Government Summit that went on during the whole Chris Rock slap episode that just, you know, got everybody so entranced for weeks after, all over social media. Even some people who you'd think wouldn't fall for the little shiny distractions, yeah, they were still talking about it. So certain topics like that I see as just this big distraction, and I don't even really care to dive into that, even though I know, you know, I could draw on some views, maybe get some subscribers. Yeah, I'm just not gonna support the problem as I see it, which is this mindset, this collectivist mindset of let's all just get distracted on the latest, you know, sensational thing in the news, where, you know, while at the same time they're having things like the World Government Summit, and they're openly talking, as one lady was, so I hope to cover, about the new coming system, the new currency of blockchain technology. Anyway, a vehicle's driving up behind me, so give me a second. So yeah, it's that in your face, it's that brazen. They are openly admitting now, and this lady, I forgot her name, but she's a member of Winchnote, the CFR, Council of Foreign Relations. and she's a previous like financial advisor to so-and-so presidential administration and all this. And they're just these technocratic, control freak, psychopath people on these god complexes, right? Because they think they're part of the coolest club on the earth, because they can decide, as Klaus says over and over again, the narrative, right? We decide what will be the narrative of this future New World Order. It's like, sorry, but, you know, my God still lives, and he decides the narrative that I live by. Now, I know that you've created a world of nihilism where people have belief in nothing other than this financial system of, you know, materialistic excess, where the only thing worth living for, I guess, is to, you know, work for the corporate machine 9 to 5 in order to pay for your corporate goods, right? And that's what makes you happy. At least it's temporary happiness. Now, when you have a population of those type of people, and when you create the new money system, and they have no other thing to live for, basically, they have no other greater purpose in life, I guess it's easy, right, to steer the narrative, to make up whatever you want in order to justify your little power grab of a new world order. And again, Klaus is just the latest little sock puppet, right? This guy comes out of nowhere. I think it's his mother-in-law, whose last name was Rothschild, which they claim, oh, she had no relation to the Rothschilds. It's like, yeah, okay. In any case, he's a protege of Henry Kissinger, of all people, who has called for on multiple occasions, that sick, evil man as he is, with all the blood on his hands that he does have, which just gets recycled administration after administration. You know, even Trump, the outsider, had to meet with Henry Kissinger, right? Have a little private closed-door session with Kissinger. Just get all of his little ducks in a row. Sorry, it's a little windy out. I got my dead cat on my mic, but still might be causing a little noise. So yeah, we know where these people come from, basically, right? Whether they're frontmen or whether they're real deal, we know basically where they come from. Just wanted to walk down by this little creek. Sorry for the shaking of the camera, but I don't have a gimbal on me today. It wasn't really planned. I just got done talking to a rare site up here. We had some neighbors drive by, and they owned, I guess their parents bought back in the 80s, you know, when it was prime time to buy some land up here. They got 30 some acres right up there, and it's just a driveway, nothing but acreage. But man, it's nice to have something like that, right? That's what they said. They live in Greeley, and they don't really talk to the camera, so I'm not here. Yeah, really nice folks. They live in just a couple, and look like good old boy, kind of like myself. It's fun to strike up a conversation just randomly like that sometimes. And yeah, they don't plan on building or anything like that. They just love owning the acreage, and yeah, I don't blame them. There's something about, that's what I said, like just to have a peace, even though we know it's, you know, as Christians especially, we know it's just temporary, right? We know we are just stewards on God's green earth, right? God ultimately owns all of his creation, but it's just something nice about having, like, yeah, I own this, you know? It's like, within the rules, of course, you can do whatever you want basically on your own property. There's nobody to come around saying you can't. There's nobody coming around to kick you off unless, like I say, you're a violation of some HOA or something like that, which hopefully you don't have to deal with like some people out there. Yeah, why people, and that's what we're kind of dealing with lately in our little community, and we got people trying to push back and get rid of a certain lady at the head of the HOA, and maybe even disband the HOA, but easier said than done. I think you need like 80+% of a vote to get rid of the HOA. But there's people in what they call the upper filings from us who do not live under an HOA, and they're doing perfectly fine. So I just pose the question, as I do, you know, kind of the troubler of Israel. Why do we need it? You know, it's a good question. Like, if we have the county, we got to abide by the county code, and they're strict enough as is, because a lot of those codes apply to like city living, and we're way up here in the mountains. Why do people live in the mountains? Why do we move to the mountains? And, you know, to escape all of the conveniences of being down in the city, if not for the freedom of living up in the mountains, right? And yet we still get people up here that just love to be slaves, I guess. They love to be little tyrants, and they love to be ruled over by little tyrants. And, you know, ultimately, you know, the individual is the smallest minority, and just because you might have a chip on your shoulder, you might not like this or that person. If their lifestyle choices, if what they do on their own land does not directly impact you in a negative way, it does not directly harm you, then what's the harm done? That's my philosophy, you know? Get over it, right? And that's what freedom requires, tolerance, right? Of, you know, even some of the most intolerable people. We got to be tolerant of them, because if we're not, and we make an exception for this or that person who might not be, you know, the darling of the community, then what's going to happen when somebody comes around who might not like us, you know? And yeah, you just set that precedent. Now you and your rights can be taken away. You know, your ability to choose your own destiny, your ability to choose your own lifestyle choices, your ability to use that little temporary piece of this earth as you will it. It's like, man, some people, and it takes like maybe sometimes an extreme, like say China, to wake some people up to realize, you know what, maybe we shouldn't go down that road, right? Maybe we shouldn't be like China, because you know how the people of China got to the place where they're at, and I've said it before, it's by continually complying. Just keep complying. Now they're on their knees with their smartphones in their hands, you know, waiting upon this little green QR code to give them the privilege of going to their daily job, of, you know, traveling around, of staying in their own homes and not being forced into quarantine. Literally on their knees, waiting for their QR code status, based upon their daily forced, faulty PSR tests, nucleic acid tests. I mean, talk about insanity, man. Why would you want to live that way? This is not how God intended us as free will beings to live out our lives. But if we continue down this course, and right now they're trying to package the smart money, the digital IDs, the UN Agenda 2030, sustainable development goal of having every citizen on this green earth with a digital identification tied into this blockchain technology. They're trying to sell it in this country as freeing, you know, the freedom money, right? Ted Cruz. This is decentralized, guys. They can't control this, guys. Excuse me? They can't control digital assets that are governed by algorithms. It's insane, man. But they rely on people's ignorance, and that's what, hopefully in my show, you know, I know I'm taking it baby steps sometimes, some of these topics. And sometimes I just start recording and I'm not all that rehearsed, but hopefully I'm doing a little bit to educate people on this, how big of a topic this is. You know, in particular the issue of cashless, right? That used to be a controversy, I remember. Not too long ago, the idea of, oh, they want to get us all cashless so they can control us. They want to get everything electronic payments, digital, right? Well, you know, now it's a reality, and they're bragging about it at the World Government Summit. And where's the protest? You know, where's the? There's not too many of us out here that are crying wolf, I guess. No, instead it's being branded as this liberating, libertarian. It's gonna lift the downtrodden, the poor, oppressed masses. You know, we're gonna be floating above it all. Cloud 9. Escape all the concerns of the Fed spending, the hyperinflation. As long as you just dump all your fiat into digital currency. Yeah. That could never be misused, right? In the Burn Scar area, this is this pretty little stream. Love the sound of this place. I'll show you a little close up before I go. Little meditation area, right? I love that sound. Running water, that is essential. You're gonna get property, and that's what I was gonna cover some of that today, but I guess I never got around to it. But there's a lot of talk right now. Like I said, when you have the President of the United States of America warning his own people, food shortages are coming, like Biden said, you might want to listen up, because yeah, it's no longer just conspiracy whack jobs like myself, I guess. Proudly take on that label. It's no longer guys like me, it's the guy in the highest office of the land saying, yep, it's Putin's fault, but food shortages are coming, they're on the way. So you might want to start. I tell people this any chance I can, you know, ultimately God will get us through this, right? But he also gives us a mind, and he also gives us, you know, hopefully you have 2 hands, 2 feet. If not, use what you got. You know, he gives us the ability to act on the knowledge that he gives us. And so we don't just sit around praying for God's blessing all day long. We don't join a monastery, right? That's not biblical. That's not, there's no examples in scripture of, yes, you should just disconnect from the entire world and just focus on your own spirituality. No, that's selfish. We're supposed to be his hands and his feet, according to the scriptures in the New Testament of the body of Christ. But knowing this, we're also told we have prophecy because we have a loving God who wants us to not be caught off guard when all these insane things happen. And hopefully we'll be a little bit prepared, right? There's only certain things, there's only so much that you can prepare for, right? I mean, I don't necessarily see it happening, but if a nuclear bomb goes off on Cheyenne Mountain, central Colorado Springs, I don't know if all of us here on the Front Range are going to survive it and the fallout, all the radiation that comes with it. But there are certain things that you can prepare for, right? You can buy a little extra food if you got the means. You don't rely on what you have to save you, because we know there's only one Savior of this world, and that's who we need to really spend time with. We need to take God more seriously. That's my main message. Take the times in which we're living more seriously, and yeah, prepare, you know, as best you can. Yeah, I'm kind of struggling lately myself with, like, man, should I sell my assets? What little assets I do have, because as soon as I do that, I'm stuck with fiat money, and we know where that's going. You know, I'm going to be able to buy less and less. So we just need to pray for wisdom. You know, when do we sell? When do we buy? Especially now in these times when, you know, I think things can get destabilized really quickly. We're seeing what's happening. You've been paying attention in Peru. in these different countries, when hyperinflation really hits and the cost of living just goes sky high and people can't even afford, the basics anymore, the essentials. They can't afford to eat. They're raiding grocery stores, right? That is a scary place, and you want to get as much as you can, if you're capable, property, land, water, which is one of the hardest things to find in this state. But yeah, land with water, and start learning how to grow. Do what you can, where you're at, and let God do the rest. Let God take care of the rest. Anyway, I've rambled on too long. Thanks everybody for listening. God bless. We'll see you Nightwatch N8 up here in the Rockies. Beautiful day. Getting excited about summer. God bless. We'll see you. Signing out.